Hi, my name is Kiran and today we are going to talk about phases of testing and the deployment process. So to understand the different phases of testing, we'll take an example of an e-commerce project and we'll relate the development of the project into different phases of testing. So let's say we are working in an e-commerce platform, any of the ones which you use. So starting with there are different modules in any project which we work. So there is registration page, and then there is, let's say, login page, then there is home page, then in any e-commerce platform we have product listing pages. So here it's the product listing page, and there are product description pages. So we have product description pages. Then there is search functionality, then we have cart, then we have payment pages, and after the payment there is order summary or thank you page. So let's say developer 1 is working on the registration and the login modules. Developer 2 is creating the home page. Developer 3 is working on the product listing and product description pages, and so on. So to understand the deployment and phases of testing, we'll talk about the different servers which are existent. First, there is dev server, development server, which is used by the developers. So there are many developers in a project, let's say developer 1, 2, 3, 4, they are using the development server. Then there is a QA server which the testing team is using. So let's say QA1 and QA2, they are using the QA server. Then there is the next server, which is UAT, the user acceptance testing server. And then we have the production server, which is visible to the end users. Now, let's say developer 1, he finished working on the registration and login module and he pushed his code into the dev server. Then we have developer 2 working on the home page. He too finished his coding, part of coding, and he pushed his piece of code to the dev server. Now these two codes are integrated together and they are sent to the QA server for testing. Now here the developer 1 has already performed unit testing on their own pieces of code. So developer 1, he performed unit testing on the registration and the login module. So here the testing which is performed is unit testing by each developer on their each modules. Now once the unit testing is done for each module, they are integrated and sent to the QA server. After a while, let's say developer 3, he also finished his piece of coding and onto the product listing page, let's say, and he did his own unit testing. And then these are combined together and sent to the QA server again for testing. Now the QA server is where major chunk of the testing activities will be performed and all the different phases of testing will be taken care of. But first, let's say it starts with the integration testing, and once all the integrated code, let's say development 4 also has pushed his code and they are integrated together and sent to the QA server. So there are different integration testing performed on different integrated pieces of the code. So once the integration testing is over, they are all deployed to a simulated environment and a system testing is performed. Now in the testing server, there are a lot of different types of testing which we perform, like smoke, sanity, regression, functional, non-functional. We'll talk about all different types of testing in a different course. We'll talk about all the different types of testing in a different video, but let's here focus on majorly phases of testing and how deployment takes place. So we saw that how individual modules were unit tested by each developer who is responsible for creating those modules. Then they are integrated together and sent to the QA server, where the testers, they perform the integration testing and the system testing, which leads to successful system testing, leads to UAT testing. So what happens from here? The code is pushed to the UAT server where there are different phases of UAT testing, alpha and beta. So we'll talk about alpha testing and beta testing as well in another video. So here alpha and beta testing is performed on the UAT server. So before pushing onto the production server, there is a UAT, user acceptance testing, which happens on the UAT server. After alpha and beta testing is successfully passed, there is a push to the final production server. Here it is visible. Here the product is available for the end users like me and you who are using any e-commerce platform. And then it's available. So ideally, till the UAT, all the issues which are existent in the system should be removed, and there shouldn't be any major bugs open, and the product should be completely bug free and as per the client requirement. Now one important thing what we should take care, or what we should understand here is, let's say we are not having an individual QA server and we want to work on the development server itself. Now this guy, developer 1, he is making some changes and he is pushing his piece of code to the development server, and we simultaneously are working on the dev server. So there will be a platform, or there will be a change in the website, and we won't be able to have a stable system for testing. So that's very important that we have separate servers for developers, for QA, for UAT, and of course for production. So that is very important, that we do not mix up or mess up with the different servers, because dev people can only do their own changes on the dev server, and any push to the QA server beyond this, any other deployment needs a QA sign off. If there is no QA sign off beyond this, the code cannot move on to UAT or to production. So the developers will be pushing in their code to the dev. After that, they will be unit tested, they will be integrated together. The integrated piece of code will come to the QA environment. The QA will be doing their own integration testing and system testing. After a successful system test, the code will be pushed to the UAT server, where different phases of UAT testing will be performed, alpha and beta. Once the UAT testing is passed, there is a UAT go ahead, then the product is released, or the build is released to the production, which is available to the end user. So that's about the phases of testing and the deployment process. Thank you.